it. Oh, yes! Well done, holy crap. Wow. How's it going, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are heading back to the dyno to turn up the boost in my Honda Civic. I want to give you a quick rundown of this setup, just in case you're new to the channel. So this is my Honda Civic EK 96 model, and it has the factory D16 Y4 engine completely unopened, turbocharged with a GT 2860 RS, and it makes 10-pounder boost on E85 fuel. Engine management by the HALTECH Elite 550 on my own custom patch loom, tuned by Fernando from TuneLab Racing. It's been a super solid setup. So last year alone, we did, I think, 6 or 7 track days. We double entered Amaru, Pheasantwood, we did Winter Motor Raceway, we came back to Sydney Motorsport Park, and then we finished the year off at London Raceway. So I just checked 315,000 Ks, and just up until recently, it was still my daily driver. In the last year with the turbo setup, 0 mechanical faults, and it's just been way too reliable. So in this video, my plan is to turn it up and see if it survives. To help this engine handle a bit more power, we have to do some upgrades. So we're gonna go with the ARP main bolt kit, and also of course, the head stud kit we should have done ages ago. Just kidding, we are not gonna do any of that. We are gonna send it on the stock unopened engine and see if it survives. But a huge shout out to Doug. Thank you for that little gift you've given me. And for sure, we're gonna be putting it to good use one day, just hopefully not in this video. So yeah, let's get into it. I know you guys have really missed this car. Nothing has changed. We haven't had anything to make content with because the car's been just so reliable. Still got the red label. Still got the London sticker, still got the Sydney Motorsport Park sticker. And yeah, it's just been sitting undercover outside, and just pulled it into the garage for some works. It's funny because every time I'm at the racetrack and everyone wants to have a look at what's under the hood, because it sounds good, this car. And I pop open the hood and I'm just looking at their reaction. It's very underwhelming. This is, I guess, a very budget looking and honestly not very aesthetic at all. I never intended for this setup to last this long, so that's the reason why. But you know, a few things we had just literally slapped together. Even the vacuum hose, this is the wrong size hose. We just drilled out whatever hose we had laying around in the box. Got a mechanical boost controller, which was meant to be temporary. We've got our wiring to our sensors, which were also meant to be temporary. And it's just been too good. I didn't want to make any changes for the purposes of increasing our boost pressure. First of all, being the mechanical boost controller. We are going to upgrade this to a 3-port Mac valve. So I'm going to show you how to wire this in. So this is a Mac valve. Got a Dodge connector here to make the wiring a bit neater. Some fittings, a mount from, where is this from? EFI Solutions, I think. We've got a sensor here. This is a fluid pressure and temperature sensor. And the reason why we're doing this, I'm going to take one for the team. This one's for you, James, because everything we've done up until this point, we were using his car as a guinea pig. What I want to start doing is collecting coolant pressure data, because we know that at some point, this head is probably going to lift. I'm going to give the car a quick service, so just a fluid change, I think oil and coolant, and that's it. First thing we're going to do is remove our mechanical boost controller. These do work. I've had these on other cars before, but in our case, for this setup, it hasn't allowed us to do any fine control of our boost. One click higher and I think it'd set us straight into overboost. The way it works is you've got a little dial on top. You can increase and decrease the boost, and what it does is just bleeds off positive pressure before it hits the wastegate actuator. In the place of our mechanical boost controller, we are installing a 3-port Mac valve. Now, you can buy these from a lot of different places, but make sure you get a genuine one. So essentially, this is just a solenoid, and it's got a spool inside to allow the ECU to control how much pressure it bleeds. If controlled through the ECU, it can do cool things like boost by gear, like boost by RPM, that kind of thing. So we're gonna add a Dodge connector here. So make sure you follow HALTECH's instructions. We're using port 3 and port 2, and port 1 vents to air. So we've got a little air filter here, port 1, and we've got our 2 nipples to go. There we go. That's the HALTECH 3-port boost controller. I just saved you $100. Our bracket is going to mount right over here. Alright, that's as good as it's going to get. Now that was rather simple. So we've got our 2 wires going to the ECU. We've got our vacuum line over here. We really should shorten this, but you know, just temporary, right? There we go. Done. Looks right at home. Got the connector here which will sit next to our factory connectors, and then the wiring for this is very straightforward. So I had this already pre-wired. So you have 2 wires. It's very easy to wire a Mac valve. You've got 2 wires. One will be a switch 12 volt, one will be a digital pulsed output. So whether you are wiring this up to a standalone ECU like a HALTECH or some Arduino board, or even some sort of piggyback like a Hondata, you will have digital outputs that you can wire this to. Very straightforward. It also doesn't matter what polarity you use. It's just a solenoid, so positive, negative, it doesn't matter. This is going to be going onto the end of the Deutsch we had pre-wired, and this is going to be going straight to my patch loom. So I wanted to show you the evolution of my patch loom. If you're not aware, I sell these on the website. They're made to order, about a 1-month turnaround, and I've sold about 8 so far. And yeah, this is something I started doing after I made the HALTECH plug and play patch loom video. So if you want to build one of these yourself, make sure you follow that video. It'll give you all the information you need. This was the Gen 1, so the thing which started it all for this car. Unfortunately, it was just a big mess. I wanted to start again. And this was the Gen 2, which went straight into my car. It featured a 3-way ECU header. And this was a much more refined loom, a lot less wiring involved. And this is kind of just like the one I still develop off and try different things on this loom. And this is the loom I've been selling. So I just finished this loom for a customer a few days ago. It's going to a workshop in South Australia. This is a full plug and play experience for the P2K, which is the D16Y4 engine loom. Here you have a 2-way ECU header, which goes to the HALTECH Elite, the 550 or the 750. And then you got these connectors here. So this is a fully optioned loom. It's got your options in the loom like your flex, boost controller, sensors, that kind of thing. This is for the wideband controller, and you've got a separate switch 12 volt and ground for the harness. And yeah, you've also got this little fan control wire which goes to the I think it's 101 connector. But anyways, you guys can see that I've put a lot of time into this, and if you're not keen on making the loom yourself, head on over to my website and pick one of these up. So fully optioned, they're about $700, but worth every cent. I build the looms from scratch to your specification, and I test it on my own vehicle. So everything which goes out the door is good quality. So back to my loom, and this features a DTM 8-pin connector with 2 white wires, you'll see there. So these 2 white wires are pre-wired into the loom like a year ago. But essentially one of these wires will go to a 12 volt source. So switch 12 volt, it's probably this wire. And the other one will go to the DPO on the HALTECH ECU plugs. I believe it's that white one. Whether or not you're wiring it straight to the ECU plug or through a patch loom like I have, it's the same deal. All right, so this is the connector for the boost controller, and I've kind of combined the wiring with the wiring for the oil pressure and temperature sensor. Over here, just made a little harness with some sleeve, very straightforward. So essentially this will go into the car like this. So this will shoot down to the back of the block, to the oil pressure sensor. This will connect up to my boost controller, and this Deutsch DTM8 will run into the car through the firewall. And from here, this will just connect up to my patch loom. Click, like that. And that's how the ECU reads off the boost controller. Now that's done, let's move on to the coolant. sensor. So what I want to do is to put a coolant temperature and pressure sensor in the head. So there are a few ports under there, under this distributor, and at the same time I want to change out that Dizzy O-ring. Thanks CGR. Over there. Because this is already synchronized to the ECU, we want to make sure when we put the distributor back, it's in the same spot. It's a big oil leak. With the distributor removed, we can see 3 sensors going into the head. So all 3 of these are for coolant. This one here goes to the factory cluster. Pretty useless sensor, that one. This one is the ECT, which is read by the ECU. And this one is the aftermarket sensor I fitted, which has an external gauge on the dash. What we're going to do is replace one of these sensors with our Bosch sensor. This is an adapter for a 1/8 BSP T thread, which coincidentally is the same size as the one we have for the cluster reading. It's difficult to find an adapter for the factory ECT, so we're going to leave that there. We're going to leave it plugging up the head, and then we can remove this old sensor and replace it with our Bosch. All right, we're going to drain some coolant. I've got my faithful esky over here, and I can reach down and drain it from the bib cock, as it's called. Sensors going in. Imagine it was the wrong thread and I threaded the head. Alright, so wiring for this sensor. Now in my head, this is going to be very simple and it's going to be quite neat. Because we're running the HALTECH ECU, we don't need to run the factory map sets anymore because we have the onboard 3-bar, 4-bar, and this connector, I'm not sure if you can see that, this connector is for the factory map sensor. It has wiring to the ECU for 5-volt supply. We have signal ground, and we also have an input to the stock ECU connector, which we can pinch off the patch loom. So we've got 3 of the wires there already for the 4-wire sensor of the Bosch, and we just need 1 more wire on this harness to go to the ECU. And of course we have the factory coolant sensor, which we are replacing. So this connector over here is now redundant, and that's our 4 wires. So just works out perfectly that this is in the same branch on this wiring loom, and a lot of the connectors there, like the O2 sensor, like the map sensor, now this cluster is no longer being used. So we can actually do a bit of cleaning up here and get the 4 wires for our Bosch sensor. This is where you're going to need some sort of voltage reading device. Yellow, red is our 5-volt supply. Green, white is the signal ground. The signal ground for continuity. Alright, that did take a while, but I usually like to spend a bit more time. In case you didn't realize, I like my wiring. So everything's a bit raw at the moment, but I'm just troubleshooting to make sure I've got the sensors reading. So good way to check to see if your sensors actually are reading anything, just to bring up, your software, and you can just go and disconnect each sensor, and it should show on the sensor reading there. So you've seen that it's just gone red. That's off, so plug it in. That should disappear. Back to reading 28 degrees. IAT, just to make sure we haven't stuffed up our wiring in the meantime. Good, very good. And our distributor wiring we haven't touched. So yeah, we're going to wrap this up a little bit, put a bit of conduit on it, make it look OEM, and then call it a night. So tomorrow we can go ahead and just plug everything together, fill up the fluids, and then we can start the car, put it on the trailer, yeah, tomorrow I'll do a quick debrief once it's sorted, and then we can head on to the dyno. All right, this afternoon we got the harness in the car, plugged everything in, and everything's good. I've just been bleeding the coolant. And last time I had trouble bleeding this, so we just spent a bit more time. I think I let the car idle at about 2000 RPM with the HALTECH, and then just let all the bubbles bleed through, and then now I'm just letting it cool down, and then we'll do one more bleed before it goes onto the trailer. So something I wanted to show you is that we've already got our sensors reading. So just coming onto the laptop here, the reds are on. So I have already gone and calibrated that coolant temperature sensor over here. So if you go under sensors and then coolant temperature, you can go load from file, load the Bosch sensor, the 145 PSI one. So we have the coolant input reading from that sensor, and we also want to be able to read coolant pressure. Now, because I'm lacking AVIs on the 550, it's quite limited being such a basic ECU. I'm gonna have to sacrifice one of my existing sensors on the oil side of things. So got another combination Bosch sensor there, which does oil pressure and temperature. And we've kept an eye on temperature for quite a while. For the last 5-6 track days, it has never gone past 100, 105 degrees. So I know this car runs quite cold on the oil side of things, and I don't think the temperature of the oil is going to be much of a problem. Bring it up over here. This is the stuff I run. It is amazing, and part of the reason I believe that this engine is still alive is from the high zinc content and just a good quality oil. We did actually 2 track days in about 2,000, 3,000 Ks of street driving on one oil change. And if you think that, you know, I probably should have changed it a bit earlier, I actually sent an oil sample off and it came back with flying colors. Could have kept going on that oil. So I have done an oil change now, so it's got fresh oil. We need everything to try to help this engine last. So we are going to sacrifice our oil temperature sensor for coolant pressure. So just so I have a good idea on how to pin it on the ECU, I've already got the wire sorted there. I'm just going to run an IO report. So these are all our inputs and outputs. We're going to be using AVI 3. And AVI 3 is pin number 15 on the connector. So we're just jumping over here. Sorry about the mess. AVI 3 on the connector here. So pin 15. So all we're going to do is pull the wire going into pin 15, which is this green yellow one, and then I've already brought one wire over from our map sensor, which we are stealing the input wire for, and now this is our new coolant pressure input. We'll plug it right in. Back here on the ECU, we go to sensors. All we need to do is tick coolant pressure, and it's going to ask you for wiring, assign AVI 3. So assign that to the AVI 3. Oil temperature I'm going to disable. Now we're going to load the calibration. Bosch, just type 145, and that is the Bosch 145, and we are looking for pressure. Yeah, I'm not getting a reading. It's reading 0.5 of a volt, which is nothing. Like it's really not inputting anything to the ECU. So the coolant temperature side of it works fine, no problem there. And I know that previously that was an oil temperature input, which was working fine. So I know that temperature inputs require a pull-up resistor, which is built into the HALTECH, and it doesn't allow you to disable it. So I assume the software does that for you. But for now, I need to load the car up. So yeah, she's all bled out. No more bubbles. Maybe if I have time tomorrow, maybe we'll have a look at it at HALTECH. Anyways, maybe for another time, who knows? Let's load her up.
This is where you put in the subtle foreshadowing meme.
We are back at HALTECH. Back again. So I actually looked back on my photos. It was 1 year and 1 day since we tuned this car.
It was.
So yes. I think today's the 21st?
Yes.
It was the 20th, and this car, last time it was here, made 136 kilowatt on about 11, 12 pound of boost. And today we are back to turn it up because we just want to make a bit more power and get a bit more response out of this setup. As you've seen earlier in the video, we've gone and put in a MAC valve now. Before we were just running the mechanical controller, and we've also added a coolant pressure sensor, which was giving us a bit of a headache last night. We swapped out the sensor adapter, and I'll throw a photo up, and you can see how one of the adapters is not bottoming out on the sensor. So we put the HALTECH one in, and it's working all good now. So we can keep an eye on the coolant pressures.
135, that is the number to beat.
Right, 135 kilowatt. I just put up a post on the D series page, and I am thinking about 15, 16 pound of boost as our target. What do you think, Fernando?
Yeah, I think 16 pounds is going to be the number we end up at. We might go a little more just to see where it ends up, to see what happens.
Yeah. So the car's been tuned already, and it has had a few touch-ups. So every now and then, Fernando and I, we head out to the track, and he's been doing some corrections. So we're not really tuning the car today. We're just refining it and increasing our boost pressure. We have here Chris and Brad and Fernando. We're going to quickly go and guess how much it's going to make. So I'll start. I think at 16 pound of boost, I think it'll make 152 kilowatts.
152?
Yeah.
Well, big numbers, big numbers. I reckon it'll make 140. I'm going to go 143.
Probably 149 around that. 149. I reckon 148.
148. Oh, very close. So we've also added a coolant pressure sensor today. I've never had one before, but we want to have a look to see what kind of data we can collect. And in the event this does lift ahead, at least we know at what kind of limit we can push it to. So yeah, let's get started. Completely forgotten, but with the short ratio box, it's a very different power curve from what we used to have. So our fifth gear is a 1-to-1, so we're going to go with the fifth gear pull. So this was our baseline with the ECU targeting 11 pounds of boost. At 128 kilowatts, it's a bit less than last year, but this could also account for the high gear ratio of our M factory 5th gear compared to the factory 4th gear. I had some people tell me the car's not trapping the speed it shows on my cluster. Which of course is correct because we've done a short ratio box, bigger tyres, and generally they're just not accurate. So I really wanted to see how fast we were actually going at Sydney Motorsport Park.
So 190.
190?
Based on the dyno road speed, yep.
Oh yeah, so I was right.
Yes, we're right.
Oh, it is a rocket ship, I knew it. This is our first look at the coolant pressure.
That'll look great.
Yeah, there's a lot of spikes.
A lot of spikes.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's normal.
Yeah, I think Grant told me that when he put his in the same spot, he did have a lot of spikes like that.
What we can do...
What kind of pressures are we seeing?
15?
Yeah,
0.4?
just below cap pressure.
I think the idea is that we got to look out for large spikes in this. There'll be a general trend where it goes up anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
especially with the heat.
Yeah, the heat.
Yeah, something we were talking about earlier is that, yeah, it's probably not the best spot for that sensor, given it's, you know, straight on the head. You might get electrical noise as well, and it's a lot of vibration around there. A good spot would be like what Honed have done is to mount it onto like a swell pot, but we don't have anything fancy like that here. Dinner's gotten here, so we just ditched Fernando. Looks like we just picked up a whole lot of area under the curve. Look at that. It's interesting to see how the power just tapers off, hey?
Yeah. I think that's probably a sign of what's...
Yeah, that one might come, yeah.
Alright, let's have a look at what the data says. Yeah, it's spiked up a bit, not sure why. And then it comes and falls over at, give or take, 12 pounds.
Yeah.
Which is where we were before. So yeah, makes sense, we're about in the right spot.
Yeah, we're in a similar ballpark. We never ever saw this because we were previously just running the standard mechanical. And now, have you put a bit of duty cycle in it to bring on the boost?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent.
We could have this making 12 PSI from 4,000 onwards.
Wow.
Peak torque was at 5,500.
Which is okay.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that.
I'd rather make it a bit laggy and personally rev it out more. You can't have both.
Yeah.
But
all right, good.
We'll pause there.
Yeah, let's have some dinner.
So I was just dialing in the boost control, and our target is not that high at the moment, only 12 pounds, making the power much earlier now and holding it across. So yeah, we'll see what she does. And I hope that it makes 142 kilowatts.
There's no point revving it over and over again. We know it's the same thing's going to happen. So I think we're just going to target a higher boost pressure. So I think we're going to try 16.
16.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Yeah. What's that, Brad? Yeah. Yes. You've been waiting all night for this.
Yeah. Party time, for real.
There's a party mode.
That was spicy.
That was really, really spicy.
Oh,
wow. 6,000 RPM. 17.6. Wow.
Spicy.
That's more like it. Oh, yes! Well done, holy crap. Wow, my goodness. Is this thing still alive?
Love that.
Still going.
I think why it's made such good power so high, I think it's over the last 12 months of this turbo setup, the gradual increments of power. It's heat. Yeah, and abuse. It's heat treated the rods, so they're actually like
Self-clearance.
they're like a billet I-beam now. It's like an OEM billet I-beam fermented rod.
Back to back to back to back.
It is what it is now.
Yeah. 210 horsepower. I know you're not happy, but I'm very happy.
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm the customer. I said 152.
well
I mean,
done.
that
Well
was my guess. That was at 16 pound boost, and what?
And this was 16 pounds.
Oh, that was 16 pound.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That 156
One-
was 16 PSI.
16 and a half, call it.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's picked up a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, before-
It seemed to like a little bit more timing there.
A little bit more timing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool.
Well done on building a fucking good car, man. Holy moly.
Officially, as far as I know, the highest horsepower stock unopened D16Y4 turbo, 156.
Claim the record, man.
7 kilowatt.
156?
156, and
Yeah.
very repeatable.
K24 power.
That's exactly right. No need for a K series. It wasn't the smoothest dyno session, admittedly. I feel like we got it all done, but there were still a little bit of challenges we faced and a bit of new territory we're exploring.
When you do boost control, normally there's a gate pressure where, you know, it comes to like, say, 10 PSI and just kind of holds that pressure. But the gate pressure on this was real wobbly. I think you took a video of it earlier.
Yeah.
And because of that, the boost controller, like, I guess overreacts to it. And yeah, it can't get as nice of a boost curve as I'd like. But man, the results are there. On 16 psi, she makes 150 something kilowatts.
That's right.
Pretty crazy.
And if I will throw a few dynographs up. It's very late, so we're not going to go chase them now. But if you look at how much area under the curve we've gained and how much smoother the boost response is from when we started, this is actually probably will be a completely different car to drive.
This will be an animal.
Yeah, I think so. Peak power is 20
I think
kilowatt.
you need to find some more gears.
Yeah, that's right. Our 5th gear is pretty short.
Yeah, we dynoed everything in 5th gear because that was the old 4th gear.
Yeah, in total, peak power we picked up 20 kilowatts, but really it's not just about peak power because we picked up power everywhere.
Across the whole power band.
So maybe just something I want to talk about. We have tried to keep this alive with a few different methods through tuning. So what's the kind of your number one recommendation for trying to keep this block together when you're tuning?
Find a motor that's built on a Wednesday, I think. Look, the boost curve is a bit laggy, I guess you could call it, where it peaks at redline. That's one way to keep your rods in. And I think the other one is just be gentle on the timing. This has 10 degrees in it.
Yeah.
Which is not very much at all.
Yeah, quite conservative.
Yeah, quite conservative. And yeah, just listen to the engine, quite literally.
Yeah, we actually do we spend a lot of time just listening to see how it would react to different things.
Listen and watch what comes out the exhaust, and there was no signs that anything was going to happen.
Mechanically, it was amazing.
Mechanically, it's awesome.
Yeah, it hasn't let us down yet. So yeah, if you guys are interested in any D-Series tuning, hit up Fernando. He's done a couple now. And a couple on the way. So
yeah, a couple more on the way.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Pretty good results. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll see you guys for round 1 at Sydney Motorsport Park in March. See you then. Do a skid, you burn out.
Hell, man.
Please take it for a while. Just up and down this straight.
Okay, I'll take it up.
You have to. You have to.